All right, we are back here on the podcast talking about the latest few episodes of WandaVision. The finale is coming up next week. It's been a hell of a ride. Join me today. We've seen him on the podcast lately talking about some Star Wars, and then season of the Sky Guys. Talk about season 1, season 2 coming up soon. But today we're talking WandaVision with Nick Fraietta. Nick, how are you?
Doing well. Very happy to be on for something non-Star Wars related. So it's exciting, and I'm just ready to get into it.
Yeah, I'm about to say this show has probably been the biggest surprise out of 2021 so far. Because I mean, when like when they announced all the shows, like Falcon, Winter Soldier, Loki, you saw WandaVision, you're like, okay, do we need this?
Yeah,
Or that we did need it.
yeah, absolutely. That's definitely how it's definitely the least. It's definitely the least anticipated show of the bunch, and it's been great so far. I don't think anyone really dislikes it. I've never heard anyone say they don't like it.
No, I feel like if you've tuned into it, you're really like in from the jump and they get you from the second. It's like, I think the short episodes help, and no, it's like only like 35, 40 minutes an episode. We have 9 of them. And I know it's going to change for Falcon Winter Soldier. Going to be like 6 of those, right? Closer to an hour. But I think these work very well at the format. I talked about 1 to 5 in the podcast, right? Sandro's the pop culture correspondent here. And we got to catch up today, 6, 7, 8 gets ready for the finale. So what do you think about let's start with 6 and 7, because that's 8. We are recording on the day 8 came out. So let's catch up people on 6 and 7. What are your big takeaways on those?
Obviously there was that the whole thing. For me, the biggest, obviously the big reveal of Agnes, or Agatha, as we know her. That was the big takeaway, and then also the as they call him in the show. I like when they call him the Vision instead of Vision. I like when they call him the Vision. But when the Vision tried to leave and you saw that he couldn't survive in there, I think those are the two most important aspects of the the last couple episodes, and I like them a lot. And I gotta say, I think I've seen it on the internet that people are not thrilled with episode 8. I think so far that's my favorite one. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on 8. Let's put the spoiler warning up so you can dive deeper into 8 with that. And again, this is, if you have not seen through episode 8 yet, stop the podcast, go watch the episodes, come back. Otherwise, you're going to be spoiled in about 5 seconds. Okay, I'm going to save the big one for the end here, but they did a hell of a job going through Wanda's backstory in episode 8.
Yeah, it was great. I think a lot of, see, again, I saw this on the internet. A lot of people didn't like that. People were like, we didn't advance at all. Like we pretty much ended this episode where we ended last episode. But I think that was important background, important information that was good to not tell us from the beginning. I mean, if this show was in chronological and that was the beginning of the show, I feel like it'd be nowhere near as good. There was a nice mystery the first couple episodes there on what was happening and all that, and now that it's answered now as opposed to being answered in episode 1 or 2, that would have made the show really weird. So I think they did such a good job with the backstory and showing how she grew up and whatnot, and showing why she has this obsession with like sitcoms and whatnot, and why the show was structured that way.
Yeah, I thought that was all good. I think in terms of response to the critics online, I will say this. We ended episode 7 with that big musical intro about how it's Agatha all along. We had to sort of explore like how much of this is actually Agatha Harkness, how much of this is her doing versus how much is Wanda's doing. And I thought it was a clever way that they gave us, in the beginning of the episode, like her backstory with the Salem witch trials and how she was a witch and she ended up killing her whole coven. And she basically came to Westview after Wanda set herself up to say, like, this is weird magic going on. I want to figure out how she did this. So I thought it was a clever way to not make her the complete like bad guy here. So like, I'm not great, but I want to pick up this trick that Wanda has.
Yeah, so I'm not. I don't know anyone who knows everything about Marvel comics. There's way too many of them to know all of it. The way I do, like when we talk about like Star Wars, I consider myself like pretty much as much knowledge as you can have. But when it comes, so when they announced, she was not Agnes, she was Agatha all along. I did what anyone would do. I said, all right, well, who is Agatha? I look her up a little bit. You know what I mean? And it says that throughout the history of Marvel, she kind of serves as like Wanda's like mentor, not necessarily like a villain. So I'm looking at this as she may be the villain in the show right now, but I don't think she's like the big bad in the show.
No, I don't think so either. And we saw basically she's like, hey, like I want to figure out how you did this and how it's like I've been a sorceress for about 300 years, 400
Right.
years, and like I can't do what you're doing, which is you built this whole alternate reality. You've given everybody new personality. So we start going through Wanda's life, start figuring out what happened here. And I did think it was cool to get some of the key moments here. We saw finally the moment you talk about in Avengers Age of Ultron when her family is killed and we see the Stark bomb not go off, and cool callback to the first episode commercial when you had the toaster blinking from Stark. It's blinking the same way the bomb does. I also thought it was interesting that at that point, like Agus has a new theory about Wanda's powers here. She seems to suggest that like Wanda had these abilities all along, and that she sort of unconsciously cast a spell to prevent the bomb from going off. So I thought that was up a whole instant can of worms for the Marvel universe as a whole.
Yeah, and another thing that I picked up on that and maybe some people have picked up on it the whole time, but I guess I never really put two and two together. When you see the whole story of Agatha, a lot of us lose sight of the fact that even though it's Wanda, it's Scarlet Witch. She is a witch. Like the fact that these are the same, it's the same thing. She's a witch. She's a witch. We lose sight of that because we know her as Elizabeth Olsen. We know her as Wanda, like the redhead girl. Like
Yeah.
we lose sight of the fact that she's a witch. Like we see in like childhood like cartoons and whatnot, like riding a broom and all that. That's what she is at the end of the day. So you see there's similarities, and like when you're watching the opening scene there, it's like, are you a witch? I'm sitting there like, oh, I guess this girl's a witch. And then I go, wait, Wanda's a witch. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we kind of lose sight of that because we're getting to know the character on a personal level.
Yeah, I think that makes some sense. I also thought it was interesting her point about the powers because we had previously been led to believe in Age of Ultron that like the Mind Stone and like in the Scepter, like and the Reality Stone gave them the powers, and now it's sort of like okay, she had these and she was born with these,
Right.
and the exposure to the Infinity Stone sort of brought them out. So it feels like, in a way, in my opinion, Marvel's opened that little back door so they can sneak all the mutants in here and say, oh, they've been in here all along, we just haven't found them yet.
That's the dream. I mean, when they signed that contract to bring in Fox, that's the first thing that a lot of people on a lot of people's minds was, does that mean X-Men's gonna be part of the MCU or Deadpool and so on and so forth? Fantastic Four, all them.
Yep, they're gonna be. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, eventually, how they gonna? Oh, more so, I mean, is not are they gonna be? Is how they're gonna work them in, and like this looking like how it's gonna be.
Yeah, well, you brought up Deadpool. Deadpool's the easiest one ever. You can just drop out a portal somewhere. He happens to find his way in this universe. It's his whole stick.
Yeah, and another thing I wanted to say is, I noticed in I forgot if it was episode 6 or episode 7, but you have Vision out walking around the outskirts of the town, and he sees everything's on autopilot.
Yeah.
And that reminds me a lot. That's actually perfectly thought of. That's so similar to like when you're playing a video game. So imagine you're playing Grand Theft Auto and you're up on the top of a building and you look out into the distance in that building, you see cars moving, but they're not really there. So if you were to, let's say, parachute over to there, the same car wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? It's almost as if like it's a low res texture, and when you get closer, it renders in. So that's essentially the same situation. The closer you are to Wanda, it's real, the player character in a video game. The farther you get away, it's on autopilot. It's like a low res texture where the person is just in the car sitting there like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely get that sense. I also want to touch on the thing you brought up earlier is like, we finally got an answer for why the sitcom thing is popping up. Turned out that it's sort of like Wanda's comfort food with this kid. It's like her dad brought home, they used to bootleg all the American sitcom DVDs. And
right.
She's a big fan of the Dick Van Dyke Show. She's watched Malcolm in the Middle at some point in her life. She's watched a bunch of these other ones. And we started to see like, these are her influences for the Westview universe she's creating. She's sort of like living through them. And as we find out later through the scene with Vision, like right after she joins the Avengers, it is just sort of her way of dealing with her grief.
Right. Yeah. There's one of them was Modern Family too. I think one of the more recent episodes, but that was cool to see. Like, because a lot of this show, like I mentioned earlier, was just thrown at you at first. Everyone's like, "What's going on? What's going on?" And as time goes on, it's explained, as opposed to a show where it's like they tell you all the stuff, introduce you to the characters, get you up to speed, and then start moving with the story. It was kind of backwards. The story went on, and then they're like, "Well, you're probably wondering what's going on," and they kind of fill you in like. There was a big revelation, I believe episode 4, when they showed you that Wanda was controlling this stuff, and it's like, oh, this makes sense now. And then you see the guy go in with the the bee suit. It's like in the first, when you first see him, like, what is this? What's going on? It makes sense as you go on later in the show. And I think the same thing happened with like showing her past and saying, okay, this is why she made the universe the way she did.
Yeah, I think the most interesting conversation the whole episode was her conversation with Vision in the Avengers headquarters, where they're talking about grief, and Vision says like, "What is grief?" But he basically says something like, what is grief, but not the continuation of love?" I feel like that's sort of like the message that they're trying to send with this show, like with just exploring the idea of grief. We see a little bit on Monica Rambeau's character, and she's trying to process that she woke up 5 years later and her mom has died, and I think the exploration of grief sort of become the underlying theme of this show that has not really gotten publicized till about now.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I wish they showed a little bit more of Wanda and Vision in the movies. They kind of just, I mean, to be fair, they were only in like 3 movies together, and 2 of them they did show the relationship. It's like Civil War, they were in together and they were just people.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden we're in Infinity War and they're together, and then in Endgame, he's not in Endgame, but you see what I'm saying? In Infinity War, like they're together kind of thing. And it's just like, well, how did that happen? Like that's the first thing on my mind was how that can happen. And I told you this before, I believe, off the air. I thought for the first like episode or 2 of this show that it took place between Civil War and Infinity War, because I was like, oh, this is how they get together kind of thing. And then at the end, they end up in wherever they were in Infinity War. I think it was like Sweden.
Yeah.
But no, this is not. So I just wish they showed a little bit more of that in the movie. It kind of reminds me of Star Wars, how I'm always saying the same thing when we have these podcast discussions on the Sky Guys. I wish they showed more of this in the movie, and that's why I like the shows. They expand on the universes, in any universe. They expand and everything gets better.
They
give you more information.
This is also something you would never see as a movie, because you're not going to put a movie out there with Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany as your leads in Marvel and say, I don't think the characters are strong enough to hold their leads as a movie, but as a TV show, they're fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, they're close. They're good characters. They're good actors, the actresses, but they would need someone else in there to be the lead, and then they could be the secondary characters, sure. But it's like you said, it's perfect for a TV show.
It is, and we also got some more backstory from Wanda, including the meeting at Sword headquarters. We found out that Hayward was lying about, because Hayward claimed that Wanda came in, stole the body, left, and sort of built this world with the body. And we found out, we saw the footage that he showed Monica Rambeau, her breaking the glass and coming down. Then she realizes he's not there, and she leaves. And at that point, we'll touch on that again in the post-credit scene, but I did think it was a nice way to get to her. We get to her car. She finds the deed from Vision, where he bought them a house, a plot of land in Westview, New Jersey, which is where she ends up. She realizes what she could have had. That's when the grief starts. And we see she turns the whole town into the Westview Wanda world. We see as she actually manifests a Vision, which explains why last week that Vision was falling apart when he tries to leave the bubble and go into the real world. So I think it was a very, very like crazy moment when you finally see all of it come together, like, oh, this is what happens. And you see the real life versions of Deborah Jo Rupp's character. You see real life version of Vision's coworkers. All that stuff sort of comes together nicely in the end.
Yeah, and like you said, I think the big reveal there is that Hayward was lying. And I mean, I can see his side. In reality, all he's trying to do is protect everybody and protect Sword. He's not like, he doesn't have like some evil plan where he thinks Wanda's up to no good and he wants to protect people. I do think at the end of the day he will be the main villain in the show, or at least one of the villains in the show, not the main villain. But I think in this exact situation, I can see where he's coming from, at least, which is, I gotta say, Marvel does a good job with that. A lot of the villains in Marvel, Thanos comes right away into my head, is when you hear what they say, it's like, oh yeah, actually, that's a pretty good point. Like they're not just evil for the sake of being evil. They're just like for no reason at all, like Palpatine in Episode 9 when it didn't make any sense. Like they have some sort of reasoning for being bad, and I guess that makes it a little more relatable. It's good to be able to relate to a villain too. Like when you go to a movie and you see the villain just like, I'm going to destroy the world. Like the main character would be like, yeah, why? What, you know what I mean? Like at least this guy has some sort of reason behind it. And I thought it was great, like seeing her go to the town, Westview, and then seeing her get, angry and just creating the world. That was it's like full circle.
It is full circle, because right back to where we started the show. And I do think you're a good point with the Marvel villains. I don't know if we're going to get that much with Hayward, where we sort of see like the full extent of his point of view, but like you brought up like Marvel movies, like of late down the stretch, they've had some good villains. Like Infinity War Thanos. Don't count Endgame Thanos. It's a completely different entity. I
Right.
did not like
Yeah.
the Endgame Thanos because I thought that was like a complete regression of what the character was. And like Killmonger and Black Panther is another perfect example. They gave you a very sympathetic villain where you can see where he's coming from and why he is the way he is. I think,
Yeah, and if they were not introduced as the villains, if you just introduced it from a neutral point of view, some people would side with that person.
yeah, I think they would. And Hayward, as we find out, we're going to leave at Wanda alone because the end of the episode, Wanda basically sees that Agatha has her kids. He's holding them hostage because he wants Wanda to teach her how she became a Scarlet Witch. We get the name drop finally. We have the reveal that she created all this life on her own. And you don't know what that means to the twins because the twins were created in the fictional world. I don't know if they can survive escaping Westview, but we get the reveal that Hayward still has the Vision body. They somehow reanimated as White Vision, where he has no color. We basically learned, I know in the comics talk about he's like sort of a cyborg version, no emotions attached compared to the real Vision. And I feel like this is our back door. We're gonna get a fight between Wanda and this Vision, and somehow she's gonna get his personality into the White Vision robot.
Yeah, I think it's going to be that's what we're going to see next episode. It's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be a lot of fun. Um, on terms of my prediction on what's going to happen, I don't really know. I think that's what's great. As you mentioned, something's going to happen with we still have the other Vision, the Vision she made, so they can probably battle it out a little bit, and then Wanda will get involved, and Agatha will be there. So you really can go it can go in any direction. The only thing I know for sure is that Wanda's not going to die. That's
Yeah,
pretty much it.
yeah, we know
Pretty
that.
much all I know. That's pretty much all I know.
I mean, are we all shocked that we have another Vision flying around the world? Because I feel like they did not want to let go of Paul Bettany, and this is a easy way to bring him back into the MCU.
Yeah, I actually read something about him that before he was asked to do the role of Vision, when he was at the time just Jarvis, the voice for Jarvis for Tony Stark, he was kind of getting, I don't want to say tired of acting. He was losing a lot of. He wasn't getting. He wasn't. No. Not his side. He was losing a lot of roles. Like he wasn't getting roles. He wasn't getting work, and he was his acting career looked like it was coming to an end. And I read an article basically said that Marvel or whoever I guess Marvel Studios called him up and asked him to portray Vision, like the live action version of Jarvis, like an in character person. And he said as a joke, he's like, oh, I'm not happy about that because I used to show up for 2 days and leave with he said he quoted it as a bag of money he'd go home with, and now he has to be there for multiple days. And I think him doing that really like rejuvenated his career. He got a role in Solo. He's been in some other things that I've seen. So it was good for him, obviously, to be in that character because he went from the voice actor who was like looking like his career would be over to getting to basically getting restarted. And they don't want to get rid of him. You could tell, as you mentioned. So it's good for the future of his character too, and the actor.
Yeah, the other dangling plot point we have it's not addressed this episode was the post credit scene from episode 7 where Monica Rambeau gets confronted by fake Pietro, and I still want to find out how exactly she created him because I don't know if it's sort of a thing like maybe it's like a Wonder Woman 1984 situation where Agatha sort of like corrupted like somebody who lives in the town just made them fake Pietro, or if it's completely a manifestation. So how that plays out because Monica ends up showing up for this final fight somehow.
Yeah, it was a little odd that a lot of the characters. I mean, it wasn't odd. Based on what we talked about the episode, it was not odd. But I'm gonna use the word anyway, odd, because I can't think of another word. But it's a little odd that a lot of the characters in the show are just not in this episode. You know what I mean? Because it focuses so much on Wanda's past.
Yeah, it was literally. If you look at the end credits, there's only 4 main characters credited, and one was Deborah Jo Rupp showing up for like 30 seconds as her non-WandaVision version of the character. We had Paul Bettany, Elizabeth Olsen, and Catherine Hahn. Those were the 3 who were dropping most of this episode, and was
basically. And I gotta say this. So I really don't know about like the comics in terms of like history. So when they said, "Oh, here's the neighbor Agnes," I know some people personally who were like, "She's the bad guy. That's the witch." Like I didn't know that watching the first couple episodes. I had no idea. But I want to say when it comes to TV shows, if you have a character who comes on to a show, usually this takes place after the first season. But if a character comes on to a show and it's an actor that you recognize, they're gonna have a big role.
Yeah.
They're not just going to be background characters. This perfect example is in the Flash TV show. They brought in the guy who plays yeah, this is embarrassing, but I don't know Harry Potter well. What's the guy's name? Not Harry Potter, the Malfoy. If I'm saying that right?
Yeah, Tom Fenton.
They bring him in as a character, and I recognize him from the movies. I'm like, he's not going to be a small character. He ended up being a huge character, and they played him off as a small character in the beginning. Same with the one who plays
Catherine Hahn. You don't bring her in to be the wacky neighbor.
Right. I see her in a lot of things. She was in, off the top of my head, Step Brothers. She was in Parks and Recreation a lot. But she's in some things. She's not just coming in to be a background character like Vision's coworkers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, especially because like she always gets like the last spot in the credits. It's always somebody who's gonna be a big role in the show.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like in a lot of shows they'll go through the whole credits, and then at the end they'll mention like the big actor, like in Always Sunny in Philadelphia. They say all the actors, who they are, and then it says, and Danny DeVito as Frank Reynolds. Like this, and we also have, don't forget we have Danny DeVito here.
Yeah.
That's similar to her role here.
Yeah, it definitely feels like that, and I do think it's going to be fun, the finale. I'm looking forward to covering it next week on the podcast. But I also think it's going to be a good job sort of setting up the character for an arc here, giving Wanda a little backstory, because she's supposed to be, the next appearance for her is going to be in Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. So you wonder here, like, after all this development we've seen from Wanda for the past 8 episodes of the show, going to be 9, we've gotten an arc from her, and they've said it's not required reading, that you can skip WandaVision, watch the movie, and she'll be there. But I think it's a good backstory, sort of cue her up for an interesting role in that film.
So I wonder, based on their comment, I'm assuming the answer is no, but I wonder if Doctor Strange makes an appearance.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. Marvel fans love their connections. They really do. I saw a Reddit post about WandaVision and not WandaVision, sorry, Endgame and Doctor Strange, and it shows a picture of someone, one of the Mystic Arts guys in the background, and it's the same guy in Endgame who comes out of the portal, and it's like the attention to detail in Marvel is so great. And then one of the top comments on that was somebody said, I went for an audition for an extra at a DC movie. I forgot, he didn't mention which movie, but he said they just said, whatever, we're really easygoing here. Like at Marvel, that doesn't work though. At Marvel, they want to make sure that like people will recognize it because they want to stay consistent, and like continuity is more important at Marvel than it is here. For here, we're just making sure that you fit the part and you look okay in the back. And that's so true. Marvel has that where every little, if you were in 5 seconds of a movie, if you're the little boy from Iron Man 3, you're going to be in Endgame, like that's crazy. They put the same actor back. Like they do that kind of thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if they threw in somebody that we know in this last episode, like Doctor Strange, maybe even just a post-credit scene, just to show like, now will we have another season of WandaVision before the movie?
I don't think so.
So then maybe you bring it in right away. You bring Strange into the post-credit scene or something. I don't know, if even something small, like I need your help, something little like that.
That's entirely possible. I also feel like it's possible that maybe this post-credit scene is a tease for Falcon and Winter Soldier, because that's the next thing they have coming out. So
yeah, that comes out. I believe we have a week in between. They originally told us that we did not have a week in between, but now we do.
Yeah, there is a week in between. WandaVision ends March 5th. The 12th, we have one of those, like, I know
Legends.
We have the Legends, if they doing the YouTube mashup for Falcon, Winter Soldier, and whoever else they want to. They also have a behind the scenes making of WandaVision special, sort of like how the Mandalorian had their Disney Gallery thing for season 2. They have one of those for WandaVision.
Not sure if you watched those, by the way, the Disney Gallery for Mando.
I did.
So the season 2 one was good, but the season 1 one especially was fantastic.
Yeah, season 1 had 8 episodes. They would give you different things.
I loved that season 1 one. That was fantastic. Season 2 was good too, but season 1 was really great.
Yeah, well, season 2, I felt they would have done more, but COVID, I felt like it's kind of like, okay, well, here's what we have. Let's slap it all together in one episode. So
yeah,
I think the WandaVision finale here, I think we're gonna get like a setup. I'm probably gonna tee up Falcon Winter Soldier, get the audience, say, hey, don't drop your subscription. You're gonna have new Marvel in 2 weeks. So I think that's gonna be the teaser there. I also think, I don't know if you saw this interview earlier this week. They talked to Kevin Feige about some things, and they're asked him directly, are you gonna have a second season of WandaVision? Just how big a hit it is. And he said, honestly, we don't know, because like this is something where the story has to be broken a certain way, and we can do this for certain shows. Like some shows will plan out multiple seasons. This one, we had an arc planned, and given the fact that we have certain movies going on, I just don't think that we're going to have a clear cut, like, here's WandaVision season 2 coming in 2022. I don't think they're going to do that.
Well, here you can call me a complainer or a negative Nancy, whatever you want, but that's the difference in Marvel and, or should I say Marvel and Lucasfilm. Lucasfilm says, oh my God, there's money in this. Let's keep making seasons until there's no more seasons to be made, until we've milked this thing dry. You hear exactly what he said right there, what you just quoted. We got to see if the story's there. They're not just going to make something because they can make it and it'll be successful commercially. Like, you know what I mean? They are financially. They want to make something because they want to make it good.
Yeah, exactly. It's sort of like one example I can think of right away for one's coming on the line. It's like Hawkeye. This is the TV show. Like, I could see them doing season 2 without Jeremy Renner and having it just be the Kate Bishop version of the character headline of season 2 of Hawkeye. But right now, what you have with WandaVision is, okay, it's such a unique format. If you don't have a story, don't force it. So this is sort of more like the Watchmen model on HBO, where they said, we have 9 great episodes. We don't want to make another one just for the sake of making another one. So we're going to call it here. If we come back to maybe 5 years, we have a better vision, but we're not going to do anything right now.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. Think about it like a business. You know, if you put out something, sure, you'll make money, but if you taint your product, then it halts it there. If you stop when it's right, you can come back at the right time. You can move somewhere, especially with Marvel. They're never. It's not like Marvel's ending. You know what I mean? Like, they could stop WandaVision and make so many other things and make other things better because they didn't make another WandaVision.
Yeah, and also they've also said that they're committed to the episodic weekly release. I think makes a lot of sense to them because they're in the news every single week now with, oh, what happened on WandaVision this week? We had a whole week of Agatha all along videos, memes being made on the internet. We had like some moments of like Jimmy Woo having spotlights on social media. We had Kat Dennings' Darcy get spotlights on social media. We've had all these great moments, and like that's something that happens on a binge show because you have for a weekend, then it's gone.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, but I really wish more people agreed with me and you with this. Because the amount of people that I see out there who are like, "Oh, I'm just gonna wait till it's over and binge the whole thing," or like, "I don't really like to watch. I'll watch like 3 at a time because I can't just watch one episode." Like, what happened to us as people? Like, we used to sit around the TV and wait Monday night for a TV show or Tuesday night or Sunday night, whatever it was on. And now the as streaming kind of thing, like you can't even do that anymore. Like, people have to watch it all right away. Like, I know so many people who waited for Mando to end completely and then just binge season. Well, not completely. There will be a third season, but they just binge season 1 and 2 together and be like, all right, I'm caught up now. Like, in a weekend. Like, how's that fun? Like, I don't understand. Like, I enjoy like the way we're talking about this now. That's what makes these shows great to me. Is that we can discuss it between episodes. What's going to happen? Are we going to see Doctor Strange next week at all? Are the Visions going to fight each other next week? How's Monica getting involved? Like, that's important stuff. That's the beauty of television to me. That's what, when you're into something, not just watch it in a weekend. Oh yeah, Vision. Yeah. Oh, Doctor Strange was there. Turns out he was. Like, on Friday morning, I'm thinking about it. On a Sunday night, I know the answer. Like, that's I don't understand that. I don't understand how people enjoy that. I have a hard time watching a lot of these Netflix shows because of that.
Yes, Stranger Things I think is one that has a big problem with this because this is one of those things where like it's 8 episodes. Everybody wants to watch it the first day, so you have to like if you're not watching it in the first 2-3 days, like you're way behind everybody else in the world in terms of like
right. And you of course you can watch it at your own speed and you can stay away from social media, but it's not as fun as being involved with everybody at the same time. Stranger Things was a weekly thing after the whatever it was, like the 7th episode of the first season, when you find out where the kid's name was Will, right?
Yeah.
Little kid. You find out where Will was. It's all over the internet. Oh my God, Will was here. Will was here. What's going to happen next? This and that. Now it's the whole season's gone in one day. One day, really. If you don't watch it the first day, someone's ahead of you.
Yeah. Somebody's probably woke up at 3 a.m. and watched all of it. And by the time you wake up, they're like, oh, spoilers are over the internet.
Yeah, I just don't understand what the world has come to. I know this, and we're I hate to say it, but me and you are in the minority with this. Most people are that way.
Yeah, because Netflix rewired people to say, oh, like I want it now. I can get it all now. I don't need to wait for an episode to come out. Like I want my instant satisfaction. If I can watch all 8 episodes of the season right now and have a complete story, and okay, what's next? As
I
opposed,
don't know much about like TV when it comes with like business and like in terms of like money and whatnot, but I would assume, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't this model, the Disney Plus model, if the show's popular enough, like Mando and WandaVision have, doesn't it make them more money?
you would think so, because I think the thing was when Netflix came out, this is House of Cards, the first example of we're going to give you the whole first season of House of Cards when Netflix launches. So that was sort of a way to differentiate and say, hey, like we're giving you something quality. You can do it all at your speed. You can do it all in one day. You can do it over a week. You could do it over like once a week for 13 weeks. It's up to you. So now with people, everybody has this whole binge model where now going back, it's sort of like what's old is new again, where you can say, okay, like now, like if I put a great episode every week, as more gives people more reason to hold on to the subscription because they can't just watch like the whole season of Mando and check out.
Yeah, and I think I've told you this before, maybe off the air, I'm not sure, but what I want Disney Plus to do, I think they could do this too. I don't see any reason why not. I want them to have basically a channel. So if you ever seen the WWE network, they have the same model of Disney as in they have your homepage. You can look for past WrestleManias, past pay-per-views, Monday Night Raws, whatever. You can look at all that stuff the same way Disney has Star Wars movies, TV shows, Marvel. But then they also have a live section, which is something that's on now. And typically, if you look at that, it's just something random, like they'll randomly play WrestleMania from 2002. But when something new is on, it's live on the network. And that would be a great idea. Like have WandaVision run. Let's just say, I know Friday seems to be their day. Personally, then it's a bad day. Let's say it was Thursday.
Thursday,
Have one Thursday at 8 o'clock, WandaVision airs. And as soon as it's over at 8:45 or whatever, it moves to the section of WandaVision and it's there and you can watch it whenever you want. I think that'd be great because then people can watch it at the same time. Like when you watch, sometimes you watch like the Super Bowl or whatever it may be, like a big event live on TV.
like
That
you want,
excitement of knowing everyone's watching when you're watching.
like when you watch, like for me, a show like that was Lost. You watched Lost back in the day when everybody was watching it at 8 o'clock on a Wednesday or like 9 o'clock on a Wednesday. You're like, oh my God, this happened. Or like, oh my God, Michael shot Anna Lucia and Libby, and the whole world was like going crazy.
Right. And it's there as soon as it's over, it's there for you to watch it at your own speed.
Yeah, and like if you had that, and right now they drop at 3 a.m. on Friday mornings because it's basically noon Pacific, and like unless you're like a night at work overnight or you're like a super dedicated fan who's gonna set an alarm, wake up at 3 a.m., you're not watching it live when it first drops. So it'd be cool like, if you had that dedicated, like, okay, here's our Wednesday 8 o'clock. We're gonna live. It's sort of like YouTube does with the YouTube livers, and they premiere it and have the video going as it goes.
Exactly.
And then do it here. Say, okay, WandaVision comes out this time live, and you have to watch it at our speed. And then when it's done, like you said, just drop it into the WandaVision streaming section. You can watch it whenever you want.
Yeah, I think the only issue now that I'm thinking about it is you have to favor a time zone that way.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge dagger. You can't just say US East, because then what about people in England? Too bad. Someone in China. Sorry, whatever the time difference is. I think it's like 13 hours or whatever it is. I have no idea. I think it's less actually. I think 13 is Japan, but I think that's the issue with it. But I think that's such a good idea. It would be so exciting to watch, Luke Skywalker return at the same time that other people are. And you could do that by having your friends over to watch it or whatever, sure. But knowing that everyone else is watching it at the same time you are makes it really exciting.
Another good example, that Game of Thrones, the final season, because everyone, like on Sunday nights when Game of Thrones is airing, you had to stay up to it, did not want to be spoiled because everybody was talking about it.
Actually, Game of Thrones did that exact thing. It was on, and the minute after it was over, it was on. Then it was HBO Go. Now it's HBO Max, but it was on. You can even watch it on HBO Go if you wanted to. I don't know who in the world would do this, but I think the episode started at 9 o'clock. Am I wrong about that?
It was 9 o'clock on Sundays.
Yeah, 9 o'clock on Sundays. If you wanted to, you could start it at 9 o'clock and fast forward to the end.
Yeah.
They allowed that. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't think there's anyone who did that. There's no reason why you watching if you're going to fast forward, but you could have done that. And I think that's just cool. Like it was on for everybody. And as soon as it was over, you could watch it. And I watched all those live, but I guess I didn't have to.
Yeah. I mean, the story was just so good. You're sort of looking at it like, okay, like, I don't want to miss anything. I don't need, and if you got to the end of that without understanding the context how you got there, a lot of times you end up very confused.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I don't know how you feel, but the last season was similar to episode 9 of Star Wars for me, but
that's what I've heard. I'm not a big Throner, so.
Oh, you're not? Okay. But yeah,
I know enough Throners that they said that the last season was a disaster.
Yeah, I tried. So I didn't watch the show when it first came. After in like season 5 or so, I caught up and I loved it, and I got really invested in the universe. I bought the books. I've read like one of them, not really gotten into them that much, but I had like a textbook. Our good friend Mike Pagan lent it to me. It was a textbook that had like history of Westeros, which is the world of Game of Thrones, and I like brushed up on my knowledge of it, and I got really knowledgeable on it. And then that last season happened, and it just killed my interest completely. I have zero desire to go back and watch that show, zero, because it completely destroyed it.
You know what? That happened to me with season 9 of How I Met Your Mother. Ruined my love of that show. It was
I think we've talked about that. I think we've talked about that before.
Yeah, it's literally. I had the DVD. I used to go back watching episodes. If I found it on like a USA Network, something like that, I'd have to say, "Oh, I'll check it out." I've never attempted to go back and watch that show again after the finale aired because they ruined the show so much.
That show, at least, you can watch an episode and it's not like you can't just watch a random episode of Game of Thrones. It doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? Like it's such a story driven show. At least you can watch an episode of How I Met Your Mother, like an older episode. Let's say I think my favorite episode is when Barney has that phone that won't stop ringing because he put it at the Super Bowl with a sign.
Yes,
but you can watch that, and any laughs that you had back then you could still have now. But in Game of Thrones, when you're watching it, like they're mentioning why so and so is important, and you say to yourself, "No, it's not," because I saw this finale and it's not important at all.
Yeah, absolutely. And 2 quick Marvel notes before we go. Number 1, they announced that Loki's coming out on June 11th. So we have 6-episode run of this show. So we're gonna have a nice little break here. It feels like that sort of hints to you that they're still going to try and keep Black Widow on the schedule for the movies. I don't know how they're going to do that, considering around here there's like nothing open right now movie wise. So it feels like a very risky play here because I feel the longer you wait on the Black Widow, the further you get away from the source material, because this is a movie that's set in between Civil War and Infinity War. So I feel the further away you're getting from that, the less interest you're going to have from the general audience.
Yeah, it really sucks. I wish we could have saw that movie a year ago, but what's going on with this world. But I gotta say, you touched on Loki, and I am the most excited for Loki of any Disney Plus Marvel related show. I love that character, love the actor. I cannot wait. I thought he was fantastic in any of the Thor movie that he's in, but especially Ragnarok. I know this is technically a different character of Loki. It's the one from Endgame who got away, but I think Loki is such a fantastic character and such a fantastic actor that Tom Hiddleston is.
Yeah, it is. We're getting Loki at the stage of his development of the original Avengers without any of the character element we had from the following movie. So now it's going to see Hiddleston play a different version of him developing a different.
Yeah, so no fake dying in Thor, Dark World.
Yeah, the less we have to reference Dark World, the better. We also got the Spider-Man 3 title, No Way Home. This is a terrible title, man.
I don't know what they were doing. It was not like with all the title leaks and stuff. Was that because of what they said in that trailer that they were afraid as a joke, like he's gonna ruin it? Is that like there's a point? I don't understand why they were doing all these different fake titles.
I think it's a running gag that Tom Holland is notoriously bad at keeping secrets, and he accidentally leaks stuff from Avengers Endgame and stuff like that. Yeah. So you know what? Like we'll have some fun with this. Then we're just gonna drop the title. But No Way Home is a very, very strange title.
Yeah, maybe. Just looking at the titles, we have Far From Home or Homecoming first.
Then Far From.
Yeah, think about the title for a second. Like Homecoming, he's home. He's in high school at the time. Far From Home, he's literally far away from his home, right?
Yep.
And maybe No Way Home means something with how he's trapped outside of this universe, like a multiverse situation.
Yeah. And it's also interesting that Doctor Strange is supposed to appear in this movie because now he's sort of being the Tony Stark role figure here for Tom Holland, where he's sort of like the veteran Avenger coming in there. And his movie's after Spider-Man 3. So maybe we're teeing Doctor Strange up there.
I mean, the amount of people that I have seen rumored to be in this film is the list is unbelievable. Tobey Maguire, Garfield, Jamie Foxx,
Basically,
anyone who's ever been in a superhero movie is rumored to be in this movie.
basically, if you have been in a Spider-Man movie in any iteration of Sony, you are rumored to have a cameo in this movie at the least.
Yeah, and honestly, I love Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, so I would love to see that.
Yeah, I had no desire though to get Jamie Foxx back. We did not need him.
No, I actually didn't see the Garfield Spider-Mans. I never saw them. I don't know if you recommend them. I never went to see them though.
Do not bother with the second one. The second one is probably the one of the worst superhero movies I've ever seen.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I just didn't see them. I don't know. I loved the Tobey Maguire movies when it got canceled. Like I really pissed off. And then when the other ones came out, I was like, I don't want to see this. And then the other one they brought like part of the MCU, so I just like basically had to see it. And I loved and I like Tom Holland as Spider-Man. He's funny. I like the whole cast they have there. Whatever his friend's name is, I don't know what Ned is the character. I remember the actor, but he's a funny actor.
Yeah, they did a good job with that. Nick, thanks for all the time. I really appreciate it.
It was a lot of fun, and we'll see you soon for Sky Guys.
Yep, Sky Guys coming up in a couple of weeks, so stay on the horn for that. All right, we are done recording on this one, so
all right.
I think that was fun.